And our second speaker tonight, David Adelstein, worst collegiate subject matter was history. Apparently, memorization was too complicated for him. Most people don't like math. Nonetheless, he uses an example in history to test empathy, his empathy, and your empathy. Tonight, in the second project from the basic manual, Organize Your Speech, David will explore how empathic are you. Please welcome aspiring competent communicator, David Adelstein.
Thank you. Empathy is the ability to understand the feelings of another. I'll be the first to tell you I'm not very empathetic. But this speech really isn't about me. It's to see how empathetic you are by giving an example in history. And I'm sure after I give the example in history, Steve will tell me I'm historically inaccurate with the example. Recently I couldn't sleep and I watched a Nicolas Cage movie about the USS Indianapolis. Since it was a Nicolas Cage movie, it was straight to digital. But the movie was directed by Mario Van Peebles, who was the same director that directed the 1991 iconic film New Jack City. We all know New Jack City, that movie. So I figured, how bad could this movie be? I knew some about the USS Indianapolis, but I didn't know nearly enough. We all know about Pearl Harbor, and we know about how Pearl Harbor is what resulted in the United States involvement into World War II when the Imperial Japanese Navy attacked Pearl Harbor. We know that the Japanese Navy utilized kamikazes, which are suicide pilots, with the intent of crashing their aircraft into Navy ships. We also know on a more limited scale that the Imperial Japanese Navy used Katans, which are manned torpedoes with the same purpose of crashing their torpedoes into man-made ships. Well, the United States involvement into World War II was fairly precarious because we didn't employ those suicide-type tactics, and it was precarious for many other reasons. So what the United States decided to do was to drop an atomic bomb in Japan on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. To do this, the United States decided that it was going to task this Navy ship called the USS Indianapolis to deliver the uranium that was needed for the atomic bomb. And to do this, the United States had to ensure that the USS Indianapolis, which was a ship that had 1,200 valiant sailors as young as probably 18 years old, to go on a secret mission. Most unsuspectingly did not know that they were carrying uranium on the ship. And they had to do this and deliver this uranium to the Tinian Islands, which is in the Philippine Sea, or off the coast of the Philippine Sea. And the Philippine Sea was a very dangerous area at this time because the Japanese had many submarines in this area in addition to ships, with the purpose of making sure that any U.S. vessel in this area was torpedoed or bombed, whatever the case may be. Well, the USS Indianapolis accomplished its mission. They delivered the uranium to the Tinian Islands, and a few days later, the atomic bomb was dropped. These men and the Japanese surrendered. These men ultimately accomplished a very dangerous mission, but they had to get home. This 1,200 man ship had to get home. And typically, in order to get home or in order to travel, any ship had to go with escorts, specifically submarine escorts. And the reason for that is because a ship could not locate submarines. And in returning home, the Navy did not tell the USS Indianapolis that days before, another ship had been torpedoed in the Philippine Sea by a Japanese submarine. The Navy told the captain of this ship nothing. So on the way home, the captain, who's protocol was to zigzag his ship. And the reason to zigzag is to try to avoid any submarine. But the problem was that the weather and the visibility was terrible during this time, so the ship could not zigzag. And sure enough, a Japanese submarine spotted the ship and torpedoed this huge vessel. And that vessel sank in 12 minutes, which is a blink of the eye for a ship. 300 men died when that ship sank in 12 minutes, and this was at midnight. Another 900 men at midnight were scattered in the sea, a shark-infested sea. Very few lifeboats were unfortunately available. They didn't have enough time to deploy them. So these 900 sailors had to watch most of their comrades get eaten by sharks. Some of their comrades succumbed to the brutality of the sea and drank the salt water. And if you know anything about drinking salt water, it's a death wish. And the Navy, even though this ship did not meet its destination, did nothing. They just did nothing because it was a secret mission. And only by the grace of God, a Navy aircraft that had no knowledge of this ship spotted these guys in the water. And out of the 1,200 men on the ship, only 317 people survived. Now, the captain was one of the survivors, and the captain was court-martialed. The only captain, I believe, in Navy history to be court-martialed. And he was court-martialed for not zigzagging his ship. As a result of the court-martial, the prosecution called in the Japanese commander that torpedoed the ship. And this Japanese commander lost his entire family when the atomic bomb was dropped. And despite the outcry and the animosity towards the Japanese, this captain had to testify at a court-martial in the United States. And you know what he said? He said there was nothing that captain could have ever done, because that ship was so close, and once he spotted that ship, it was done. And you know what? The captain of the United States ship forgave that commander, because he understood that they were both doing their duty with unbridled patriotism. And even though that captain was court-martialed, that Japanese commander, who later became a Shinto priest, devoted a portion of his life to exonerate that captain. So that captain ultimately committed suicide due to the horror that he witnessed. But the question is, it's easy to be empathetic towards the sailors that lost their lives. But can you be empathetic to a commander of a Japanese sub that lost his family when the atomic bomb was dropped, had to deal with the outcry and animosity towards his people, and was simply doing his patriotic duty? Thank you.